Good afternoon. I'm Ray Allegrezza, Director of Content for IFRA and Editor-at-Large at Home News Now, and you're watching the latest episode of The Last Word. With me is a guy that truly needs no introduction, Todd Wanek, CEO of Ashley Furniture. Todd, thanks for taking time.
You're welcome, Ray. I always enjoy talking to you.
All right, good. We got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. I'm going to start with a light question first. Briefly, give me a summary of how the high point market was for you and your company, and what, if you're reading the tea leaves, based on how the market was, where do you think we're going over the next 6 months?
Yeah, the High Point market was fantastic. We had great introductions, but I would say the biggest win was the retail attitude. The retailers that came into our show space were absolutely excited and energetic and, very optimistic about the future. And, we were really enthused because everybody just has this growth mindset right now, which was a lot of fun. We haven't seen that in quite a few years in the furniture business where people feel good about things. And, it's kind of a new revelation right now after the last 2 years and seeing everybody come in and just have a lot of enthusiasm, looking for new product, looking for new ideas. So High Point market was fantastic. Really, really good.
Excellent. One of the a lot of the conversations that I had with people was speculation about the possible impacts of the incoming Trump administration,
Yeah.
um, particularly concerning tariffs. But before we jump into tariffs, which is a topic I really want to, discuss with you, how do you expect a Trump administration's trade policies, particularly with China and other major manufacturing hubs, might affect the business and Ashley's business?
Well, Ashley's blessed because we're a domestic manufacturer. Over 60% of what we sell comes out of our domestic facilities, domestically produced. So we've really worked hard on a blended strategy and having a strong domestic footprint. So we feel really good about how we're positioned as an organization. I think as far as what President Trump is going to do, I think he's going to ask for fair trade. And he's going to look at policies that maybe countries have that aren't necessarily positive for the United States. And I think he's done several things so far. We talked about Canada and Mexico and what he did there, the 25% tariffs and trying to get him to the negotiation table. And it seems to be working. The global tariffs, where he says the BRIC nations, he's going to put a 100% tariff on countries that try to undermine the US dollar. I think that's pro-economy, pro-United States. And of course, what he did with China with the 10% tariff. He signaled all this stuff. And if anybody's surprised as we go into this next year of what's going to happen, they weren't paying attention, or maybe they didn't think he would get elected, because it's very obvious that he's going to be somewhat protectionist. He's going to be very pro-American, pro-manufacturing, and he's going to look at where he feels that the United States is getting taken advantage of. And I think he's going to take a very aggressive position with those countries that he feels are not playing fair with the United States. So, we're prepared. We've been shifting our supply chain really over the last couple of years, and then more importantly, over the last 6 to 8 months, once he started signaling what his plans were, because we felt that he was going to win. So we started making the shifts that were necessary. So we're not in perfect shape, but we're in pretty good shape. And by April 1st, we'll be in excellent shape to deal with whatever comes. Our belief is China is going to get a significant tariff. He's already announced 10%. Our belief is it's probably going to be more than that. And what he said for the rest of the world is it's going to be between 5 and 15% roughly. But I think a lot of that comes back to what their policies are against the United States.
Well, obviously, Trump is for balance, and given the trade imbalances, how prepared do you think the industry and Ashley would be to face potential tariff increases on raw materials, say some wood, metal imports? Is that going to be a major disruption?
I think anything that adds tax to a product is a disruption, right? Because it increases the cost of goods. The question is, what are the other benefits if you're a U.S. company, for example? Some of the tax savings that he's talking about, some of the other things that he's talking about putting in place. I think if you're a U.S. company, you probably have offsets. If you're purely an importer, I think it's a different story. I think that there's going to be more penalties associated with those countries or those companies, because they're not going to have a tax stimulus that I think is going to come through the Trump administration. So I think if you're a U.S. company like Ashley is and manufacturing a lot in the United States, I think there's going to be certain advantages that are given to us.
Well, I guess do the math. If you know, we know the net worth of the company or the volume, 60% is domestic. Trump says he's going to lower the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15. That's got to be great news for you and the other domestic
Right.
manufacturers.
Yep. Yep. But I really think, Ray, that, talking a little about 2025 and how it looks, I'll tell you what, Black Friday was amazing. And every retailer, we get a lot of reports in the field. Also every retailer, but certainly a vast majority of retailers had a very good Black Friday holiday, and even the weeks prior. And many retailers can chart almost the day the election was over and the increase in business that they've had. So, obviously there's a lot of, I would say, clarity that came out of the election once it was completed. And people are like, okay, well, this is what we're going to deal with. Some people are happy, some people are sad. But at the end of the day, we now have a voice again because there was billions spent on the campaign, as we all know. The
Absolutely.
media, the noise, the negativity. So it's nice to have that behind us.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Do you think changes that he might enact to regulations around labor or environmental standards or other key areas um, would affect our business?
I think he's going to be pro-growth. I really do. And I think he's going to look at a lot of the policies that are maybe strangling business, and we've got our fair share of policies that are strangling domestic manufacturing and business in general. And I think his attitude is going to be pro-growth. And I think some of the appointments that he's making are very good appointments. He's not pulling from, the establishment, so to speak. In some cases, he's pulling from industry and business and some very progressive thinkers. And I think that's exciting to see. It feels like there's going to be a fresh renewal of the United States and how we're approaching business in general. So I'm pretty enthused.
You got to be, without a doubt. If he said one thing over and over, it's make America great again, buy American. Are you projecting that your domestic business will see a bump as he puts more focus on domestic product?
We are. We think that, the advantage that we have domestically and the investments we made in automation and robotics are really starting to pay off for us. Our factories, we spent 7 years in automation robotics, and we're now starting to see a lot of those investments pay forward and really benefit us. And, we believe that as costs rise from overseas, we're at a better advantage than anybody else in the marketplace. So we really have a strong belief structure around what we've been doing and the investments we've been making. We've been investing every single year continuously. The philosophy of my dad and myself. We believe that you got to invest back in your business. You got to rebirth your business. And we're spending a lot of time and energy doing that as an organization.
Perfect. This next question, I'm particularly interested in your take because you're not only a student of the business, you're a student of Wall Street and consumerism. I've heard so many of the naysayer economists that the tariffs are bad. It's going to cost the average American family, but they don't tell me what the average American family is, between $2,000 and $4,000 a year extra for maybe gas and groceries, and that's going to affect spending. What's your take? Net tariffs, good, bad, somewhere in the middle?
Well, if you read what they've been saying, they think they're going to collect $900 billion in tariffs.
Exactly.
And they think they're going to save $2 trillion in savings. I don't know if that's over 1 year or 2 years or 4 years. But they expect that they're going to be able to cut spending substantially. So I think that the overall effect is if they reduce the personal income tax or some of the other taxes, even though inflation may come in goods, there's other costs that may go down. And energy costs will probably go down under President Trump. Other costs may go down that offset the inflation that people are paying. And I think that's kind of the thesis that they're trying to develop, is the fact that, we got these offsets. This may go up the cost of goods, but we have offsets in taxes and energy and everything else that should hopefully end people in a pretty good spot.
And is it fair to assume that if the perception and the reality is that the economy, which has been stuck in the mud, for the past number of years, if the economy seems to be bouncing back, I've always seen a correlation to, consumer confidence and in consumer spending. So is it, I'm looking for some good news for our industry. What do you think about that?
100% agree. I think that, UBS, one of my favorite people in the industry and doing analysis is a guy named Michael. He's the economist at UBS. And he believes that 2025, is going to be an 8% growth for the furniture industry. Now, we haven't seen 8% growth in a long time. And he's looking at 2026 and projecting a little over like 8.8% growth, I believe. And a lot of that's in reduced in housing starts, housing renewals, renovations, and a lot of things that are being done. That's significant growth. And I feel it's there to be done. I really do. And I think Black Friday kind of showed that. And obviously we're coming off a high right now, so we're all feeling really good. But it kind of showed that there's a consumer confidence out there that feels good. And the jobs market isn't terrible. I think it's going to get better. We could talk about jobs reports. I think they're coming out here soon. But I really believe that we're going to see a resurgence in furniture like we haven't seen in quite a while.
Let me ask you this big picture. While 60% of your business has always been domestically, I think it's fair to say we are now in furniture a global industry with a global supply chain. So could there be potential temporary hiccups as a byproduct of the tariffs that could slow things down for the supply chain in general? And if so, what might they be?
Yeah, I think I think that there's going to be a lot of controversial things that are done. Do they, as part of that $2 trillion spending reduction, that money's ending up somewhere, right? If that's what the number is, as they go back after, spending, does that mean Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, other things that I'm not even aware of or thinking of, employees for the government, all those things could have a little bit of a negative drag. There's no question. And, I think there are decisions that probably need to be made at some point. I don't think any of us like them, but at some point in time, you got to balance a budget and get closer to having a robust economy for the long term. But I think those things could have a drag, Ray. If you look at, what could potentially go wrong, I would say those are probably the things that I see at this point in time. But I think there's enough positives too that can offset it. I don't have a lot of negativity in my mind or body right now. I'll tell you that.
No.
I feel pretty
Like
good.
my grandmother used to say, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break the eggs. You got
Right.
to
Exactly.
do something to get something else. So let me ask you this. I just want to wrap up because I know you're busy and I don't want to take a lot of your time. Big picture, what's your general outlook for the economy? You've been very optimistic throughout the whole conversation, and I couldn't agree more. But what's your general outlook for the economy under a incoming Trump administration?
Very robust. I believe that we're going to see 3 to 5% growth of the economy. That may be bullish on the top end side, but I think a 3% number is pretty realistic. That's a nice number on an economy our size. I think we're going to have some of the problems dealt with. The wars, hopefully in Ukraine, get over. They need to. Hopefully the hostages get released. I think there's a strong position going on there. Hopefully the U.S. dollar conversation ends and the reserve currency is maintained, because if we don't have reserve currency status, we're in trouble because we won't be able to continue to print money the way we are. Those things I think are very, very good for the United States. And I think the messaging is so important. A positive message. If they just stay on this positive messaging platform that they're on right now and saying the U.S. is back, we're strong, we're vibrant, I think you're going to have everybody feel a lot better.
Well, I think it was interesting, the minute Trump really laid down the hammer about the tariffs, Trudeau got on a plane and went down to Florida and said, "Hey, let's talk." And Trump told him it's easy. You can just become the 51st state. So I don't know if you're going to be looking for some sales professionals in Canada. Let me know. But seriously,
And we want, and everybody wants a strong United States. I mean, we certainly want a strong United States. And I was over in Europe dealing with some container companies about a month ago, and trying to put together our 2025 contracts, and they want a strong United States. These are European flagship companies, and they want to see the United States get strong because, we need it. They need it. They want to see the Ukraine war get over. They want to see the Red Sea get opened back up. And the only country that takes care of those problems legitimately is the United States. Everybody else is kind of kicking the can down the road. And each one of the CEOs of those 3 container companies I dealt with when I was over there were like, we need the United States presence. We need the United States strong, and we got to resolve some of these problems. And I get enthused and excited about that because I think that is starting to happen already.
Well, you can only go by the guy's track record. Never mind whether you like him, you don't like him. When he was in last time, I think we probably had some of the safest borders. We had we
Yep.
had we had no attacks on this country. They knew this is a guy that is gonna say what he means and mean what he says and act on it. And I think
Right.
net that's healthy for us. Over the next 4 years when Trump takes office, I'll make it easy. Single biggest challenge we may face in our industry and the single biggest opportunity.
Wow, tough question. I would say that single biggest opportunity we have is just growth. I think we're going to see interest rates come down, housing starts crank back up because we all know that we're under inventoried in the marketplace right now, based on the generation that's ready to buy homes. I think we're going to see employment on the rise. I think we're going to see U.S. Manufacturing or companies thrive more so than they've ever done and hire people, make investments. I think we're going to see a resurgence. I think the biggest challenges we have are globally. I think that we are a global supply chain industry, and seeing more disruption of the global supply chain, whether it's taxes or other things, maybe trade wars, I don't get excited about that. I don't get excited about a 25% tax on Canada. I understand the reason why, but we export a lot of our product to Canada as well. We'd like to see those things get resolved. So I think those could be some challenges that we have, and the disruptions that come with it. But I think the industry has pivoted through disruptions over the last 5 years in a very significant way, and we'll figure it out one way or another. The Mexico thing, there's a lot of goods coming from Mexico to the United States. I don't know what that ultimately looks like. If there's a big duty against Mexico, I mean, that could change things as well. So, yeah, I think that by itself, Ray, would be probably my biggest concern. And then, obviously dealing with China and, hopefully we don't get into another war and we're able to resolve whatever conflicts are around the world and live a peaceful life.
Yeah, I agree. I think once the world sees consistency and predictability, and nobody wants to turn over the card, especially when both sides are making money.
Right,
So,
right.
all right,
I agree.
call this crazy little podcast the last word because I shut up now and give you the last word. So, any final thoughts?
Well, I want to thank you for inviting me, Ray. My final thoughts are have courage, be excited about the future. We are in one of the best industries in the world. I love our industry because we were talking a little earlier, it's a relationship industry. And I know people that are in the electronics industry, it's not a relationship industry as much as it is in the furniture industry. And, a lot of family-owned companies, and it's great to see them do well because this is a hard industry. It's one that we got to work with the customer every single day. We're one of the last industries that go into the home and do home deliveries. Our product is well used in the home. People sit on it, they sleep on it, they eat on it. And we're able to touch people's lives in a very popular way. But I'm very proud of the relationships that we have and really of the industry and what it is, because it really is a very dynamic and unique industry.
Well, your dad, and everybody in the company has always not only supported the industry, but led the way. So on that, I thank you and I thank you for your time. This was fun. You were great. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it.
All right. Hope to see you soon. Thank you, Todd.
See you soon. Thanks,
All
Ray.
right. Bye.
Bye.